So this is going to be a series of reviews on this Carbinox watch. It's the Vortex, not the Blaze. I had that option, but I just decided to kind of go with this one. It's going to be a comparative use thing. I kind of bought it as, I'd seen the ads, and the ads pop up once you start clicking on them, how it works. It's a company that's out of Miami, but obviously the watch itself and everything else is kind of, Chinese components and that kind of thing. What came in the box, obviously this is my phone over here, which we'll cut back to in a second because that's where the app is. You buy the thing, is typically you can find coupons and things like that. I think this was $129, this Vortex. I think the Blaze S, which would be square, this is obviously square as well, would be like another $10. Why I chose the Vortex versus the Blaze, wasn't any significant thought process put into that. But the box came, the secret gift. Apparently the secret gift for everybody is a Carbinox lanyard, which everybody I've ever seen open one up, that's what they get. There are other like accessory kits and things that you can buy with these, which would come with extra bands and an extra charger and all this other kind of stuff. And maybe I'll get some of that stuff later. It also came with this card here and here, and obviously click on that if you want, but it's this monthly loyalty thing. We'll get into that in a second, but one of the reasons why I started looking for kind of a different option was because of what I was using before. So I used a Fitbit Charge 5 for a long time. My usage case, right, is walking the dog, is going to the gym and lifting weights. Go to the gym about 6 or 7 days a week. I play baseball and I would actually wear that, and I'm a catcher, so and it served okay. Fitbit had this premium thing to get better tracking and sleep and all that kind of stuff. It was pretty well thought out. The app was reasonably decent, but it was like $80 a year to use the premium features and things like that. So it was a bit annoying. And then they don't hold up. The charging process on the back, they tend to fail. I actually went through the whole exercise of trying to repair the thing. I got it open, got the special tools that were needed, bought the tools as I went, and got it open. Yes, the battery had been overcharged. It was obviously, broken. Got another battery put in there, but the reason why the battery had failed is because the charger had failed. And now you're talking about basically rebuilding, the unit. And with Fitbit being, part of Google, it's like buying an Apple iPhone. This is being recorded on an iPad. I've got an iPhone there. I just don't want an Apple Watch, and my use case just doesn't fit that anyway. The Garmin stuff, so what my current replacement is right here, that's a Vivo Smart 5. I actually got it off of eBay. It's not a color screen, it's not AMOLED, it's a bunch of different knots on that thing, but it's reasonable. The Garmin app, the Garmin Connect piece has been free. They're gonna do this Garmin Connect Plus, but I think as a use case, I don't think I'm gonna be affected by that. I actually wore the one you just saw to, I wore it for baseball. Talking about 3.5 hours worth of baseball game this morning, and it did fine, right? It recorded everything. It doesn't have the options that the Charge had in terms of identifying. You literally could pick baseball on the Charge 5, and it would say, okay, you're playing baseball, that's fine. You just have to go with other, but it did okay, right? It did fine. There's no GPS in those smaller ones. They have to use your phone, everything like this, as opposed to what we've got here. Never gonna play baseball on something this big on my wrist. I throw left-handed and I wear a watch on my left hand, so it's just not happening. But the walks in the gym and everything else like that, what we'll kind of get through is longevity. We're gonna go through a few things at the beginning of this review here to give you an idea of what you're looking at in terms of what's in the box and the app and everything else. And I'll kind of go through the app first. I'll get the iPhone back up and you can kind of look at it. And then because the walking that I do, walk the dog 3 or 4 times a day, sometimes more, but that's a closed course, and the distance is known and the steps are known. And so at least I can compare, I can wear this Vortex occasionally, and then also wear the Garmin at other times, but I can kind of verify how good the GPS is in terms of distance and steps and stuff like that. I'll also be able to, it's tougher when you switch hands, just so you know. I know that a lot of people have tried to do comparisons, and I could put one on each arm, and I guess I could try that later on. But first thing is you got to decide which one of them is most accurate, and that's a little bit tough from time to time, and I don't have one of the chest monitors and things like that. I try to use, heart rates and some of the other things, blood oxygen, everything else. I look at it as a kind of a relative scale, and it's probably going to be the case here. What we'll be looking for is situations where it's like, my heart rate should be 140, right, or 135, and it's still saying I'm 90 or whatever. We'll kind of get to that. So this is the day 0. So we'll start with the app. So there was one app that came before, a different developer, right? So you see it's Amazeware Technology. Oh, actually, I guess it's the same one. I thought they were different, but anyway. And now they have the Pro, okay? You can see the stars on these. There was only 35 people, and that wasn't quite 4 stars. This is the one you're supposed to use now. And if you click on it, 2.8 is an abysmal. That is an abysmal rating for an app, right? And it's 4 years old, and there's, we can kind of go through this, the reviews, connectivity issues, and that's for a Blaze, issues with the phone camera, flashlight not working while the app was installed. It just glitches, waste of money, needs to be updated. If you have the audio issue, I don't want to really use my phone. I don't want to be talking into my phone, but if that's your use case, garbage. It's not super positive, right? It's so bad, actually, is that I've already researched what would be necessary to actually hijack the app, right, is to kind of figure out the communications and then actually build your own app, because this thing sounds like it's just terrible. And it hasn't been updated in years. So that's the other concern that you have when you look at this thing. The age is 4+ years old. I don't know when the last time, typically give you the size. And then if you click on the developer, right, you can see all the other stuff. So, Carbinox Pro, but here's the thing. LB Fit, there's COSBET, okay? One of the key things to understand here, right, is that COSBET, if you look at those watches and you look at the Blaze in particular, they look very similar. So I think what you've got is the guys in Miami, which is where the Carbinox guys are, that's where they're sitting. But these watches all have got common components, chipsets and things like that, even the sensors and stuff, and almost all that stuff comes from China. And so you just kind of keep that in mind. This is just the unboxed part. We will get into this. We'll call it day 1 when we actually have the thing charged up and have this installed. I'm not going to do this right now, so we'll just close that out for now. Anyway, so like I said, you got the loyalty thing. Listen, I didn't get another Fitbit because I didn't want to be part of that. So, and I won't buy the Garmin Connect Plus either. So, no, you just don't want that. And then I'm gonna have to check that app and see how much stuff it's sending back to China at any given time. So we'll see if we can get this over. All right. This has got to be instructions. Okay. All right. Actually, it looks better packaged than some of the other ones that I've seen. I got this upside down, I'm sure. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Vortex. Nice. And this has got to be the charger. Yeah, that's the charger. Okay. So we'll take a look at it. Zinc face. I'm going to do a comparative for size here, so we'll just set this down here, and we'll kind of run it next to that. It's not bad. I have a relatively decent size width of wrist. again, one of the reasons for not going for a round watch, and it's something you got to think about, is if you use in the gym for weightlifting, you do not, unless your round watch is way up on your wrist, particularly as big as some of these are with these built-in GPSs and all the stuff they've got going on internally, that is going to dig into your hand. And anytime you've got to turn your wrist back, so any kind of press, dumbbell presses, incline press, flat bench press, I mean, you're really gonna have to watch it, because that's a round watch will dig in. I don't know if this one's gonna dig in, but we will see. So let's stay zero and just talk for 10 minutes, 9 minutes, whatever. We'll get this charged up, we'll get it connected, we'll load the Stellar Performing app and see how that goes. And then we will get a day one look at this.